you're going to be able to go ice skate.
I'm going. If there's
I mean, look at the weather. It's so cold.
It's supposed to be like
Yeah, like the next 9 days, sub-0 or sub-32. We're not going to get above. Yeah. You know what? They were competing. It was fun. I mean, we were all just sweating bullets when we got done. Yes.
I have one memory from hockey.
It was so much
I just
fun.
got out of my back brace from breaking my back pressure. And like the first day back, I got elbowed in the back with a stick and I had to go back to my back brace. That's like my one memory from hockey. It wasn't fun. Because I couldn't then do it anymore. So that's still one time.
Yeah.
And then I did a back brace for another month.
Oh my God.
Yeah, gotta love freshman PE.
Caroline hit me in the nose with a hockey stick.
I have to say, I'm looking forward to subbing again third hour. Sign me up.
Knocked me out and like my nose was bleeding for like literally half an hour. Caroline hit me with a hockey stick.
Fifth hour. All right, we got 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Oh my goodness. Middle school or like
All right.
elementary school PE was the best. You know those parachutes?
Yeah.
Those are
I did a reindeer joke.
We did reindeer races, those little scooters, and then we put ropes around people.
Those
They
are
were the reindeer.
so much fun. Oh my gosh. I
All
wish
right.
I was in elementary school again.
Guys, we were covering economic theories as systems of government. And we got through communism. So first, mercantilism, socialism, communism. And now we're on to the fourth. Make sure I'm recording. Okay. The fourth, economic theories as a form of government. Okay. If you're not taking notes here, or getting these notes, you're going to be in trouble. Okay. All right. So, bureaucracy. Ready? Let me spell it for you. It's one of the hardest words in the English language for me to spell. B-U-R-E-A-U-C-R-A-C-Y. Bureaucracy. Anybody else have trouble spelling that word?
I wouldn't have spelled it like that.
I mean, it's horrible. I've been teaching this for years and I still can't remember how to spell it. Okay, you ready? Now, just because it's bureaucracy, this means it's going to be a bureaucratic definition. Here we go. A system of carrying on the business of government. A system of carrying on the business of government by means of departments or bureaus. System carrying on the business of government by means of departments or bureaus, comma, B-U-R-E-A-U-S, bureaus, comma. Each under the control of a chief. Each under the control of a chief, C-H-I-E-F, comma, in contradiction to a system in which the officers of government, in contradiction to a system in which the officers of government have an associated authority and responsibility. The officers of government have an associated authority and responsibility, period. Got it?
A long definition.
Yeah. Okay. Let me explain. Okay. As I was telling the other class, once upon a time, your teacher, Mr. Ebright, was elected to public office. This was probably about 18 years ago. I was elected by my neighbors to be on the Whispering Brook Homeowners Association Board of Directors. You guys know these homeowners associations? Okay. So I was chosen to be on the board. And as on being somebody on the board, there's certain responsibilities you have. Now, some of you live in these neighborhoods where you have these associations and you have to keep your grass mowed. You got to paint your house if it's looking bad. You're not, in our neighborhoods, you're not supposed to park in the street for more than 24 hours. You're supposed to park in the driveway or the garage. Your Christmas lights have to be down by February 1st.
Oh, there's like a Christmas.
These sorts of things. And everybody pays dues to help with the ground. Some of you guys might have a pool in your neighborhood where all these dues go to pay for the mowing. We have 2 fountains. Actually, we have 3 fountains. What's called Whispering Brook. Okay, so we have this brook that runs through the neighborhood, and the fountains are supposed to feed the brook, and water is supposed to run through the brooks. The only time water runs through the brooks is when it's raining. Okay, but the fountains work. Okay, 3 little ponds with fountains. Okay, it's not as nice as it sounds. But anyhow, one of the other things, if people don't pay dues, it's up to the board to make sure that people pay their dues every year, yes? And we had this guy that wouldn't pay his homeowner's dues. And so we told him, and then he didn't pay. So it was my job to go down to City Hall and place a lien on his house. If you place a lien on somebody's house, then they can't refinance it. They can't sell their house until they pay off what they owe. Does that make sense? Okay, that's in the bylaws. When you buy a house in our neighborhood, you have to pay your dues. Okay, now, so I go to City Hall, and I go to the information desk on the 1st floor, and I say, "Hi, I'm Charlie Ebright from the Whispering Brook Homeowners Association. I need to put a lien on somebody's house." And she goes, "Oh, well, you'll need to go up to the 5th floor to do that." I said, "Well, thank you very much." So I get on the elevator, go up to the 5th floor. It's not really clearly marked. There's 2 windows, so I get in the one with the shortest line, wait in line, get to the front window, and I say, "Hi, I'm Charlie Ebright from the Whispering Brook Homeowners Association. I need to put a lien on somebody's house." And she goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't help you at this window. You're going to need to go to the other window." So I stand in line at the other window, get to the front window, and I say, "Hi, Charlie Ebright from the Whispering Brook Homeowners Association. I need to put a lien on somebody's house." And she says, "Oh, is this a residential lien? I'm sorry, you're going to need to go down to the 4th floor to do it." Okay, I'll go to the 4th floor. So I go to the 4th floor and get the lien on the guy's house. Okay, that's bureaucracy. Okay, now, any of you guys have jobs. Where do you work? Where do you work, Ellen? At the bookstore.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I'm going in there looking for a specific title, you can help me find it.
Yeah.
And then if I need to check out, you can do that for me.
Yeah.
Okay, that's called an associated authority and responsibility. Your job is to make the customer happy. Yes? Yes. Okay, who else? Where at? Sonic. Okay, what do you do?
I'm a car hop.
That's it? You ever help in the kitchen? Never with the fryer or anything? Filling drinks?
Yeah, I do drinks.
You do drinks and you take care of the customer.
Yeah, I do drinks, ice cream, serve customer, take orders.
Okay. Who else? Where you work? Slam Tire Warehouse. Do they sell tires to customers there? So you're supplying the other customer. So if one of the distributors needs tires, you take care of them? You put them in a little truck and take them over? Okay. All right. Anybody else? Okay. So I like the bookstore one, right? Because look, if you go into a business and you're a customer, okay, the job is for them to make you happy so that you come back and do business there again, right? If I need to put a lien on somebody's house, is there anywhere else I can go to do that besides City Hall? No. If I need a driver's license, is there anywhere besides the DMV to get one? No.
Not legally.
Right. And they know that. Okay, now I'm not trying to bash on government workers or anything like that. Okay, but you are a number to them. They do not have to make you happy. They do not have to be efficient. They do not have to make a profit. Okay, because if you don't do a good job at the bookstore and people think, "Man, those girls were really rude when I went in there. I'm going to go find a different, or I'm just going to go to Amazon and order my books." You're gonna go to the devil, yes. Yeah, it is the devil to the books, to the bookstores, right? It's the devil to a lot of brick and mortar institutions. That's why you have to really try and serve the customer if you're in business. Because if you're not gonna stay in business. But government doesn't go out of business. Do you understand? So it tends to not be efficient. When I first started teaching you, okay, you talk to your mom about this. There used to be no bureaucracy at this place. Okay, like they just left you alone. Said, okay, you're teaching this. Okay, here's a curriculum guide if you want to look at it. And they left you alone. Okay, the longer I've been here, the more bureaucratic it's got, and it tends to create a system that is frustrating for the employees, for the students, and for the parents. Okay, because it just becomes more complicated. Okay, it's not efficient. Bureaucracies, by their very nature, are inefficient. Okay, bureaucracy. You have 2 cows. The government regulates what you can feed them and when you can milk them. Then it pays you not to. You guys remember the New Deal? They took to pay farmers not to plant. Okay. Then takes both cows, shoots one, milks the other dry, pours the milk down the drain. Then it requires you to fill out the forms accounting for the missing cows. It makes no sense. Okay, let me give you a very practical example of where bureaucracy can do great harm. You guys are all familiar with the VA hospital here in Kansas, right here in Wichita, Baldwin VA hospital. Okay, and there's VAs all over the country. These hospitals for our veterans, okay? Mostly with government jobs, it's really hard to get fired for not doing your job well because you have what's called union protection, okay? And it's very difficult for 259 to fire a teacher. It's just very hard. It's time consuming. You gotta have lawyers involved and you just can't fire them. If I do something really stupid here at Bishop Carroll and they're like, we can't, no, you gotta go. You got to go. You can't work here anymore. Okay? It's not how it works when you work for the government. Okay? And in our VA system, guys, we had thousands and thousands of veterans waiting on health care, life-saving health care. And there was a lot of neglect in the VA system. And there was nobody being held accountable. Veterans were dying, waiting for care. And I don't care if you like Trump or not, but this is one of the best things that Trump did as president. It's called the VA Accountability Act. And if they prove that your neglect for our veterans led to harm to those patients, you could be fired. Okay? Without going through all these union protections. And so people now know that if they're not doing their job well at the VA, they can lose their job. It's called accountability. Okay? Now, if I had my way, and I think Trump tried to do this, and he did to some extent, I'd say, all right, this is what we're going to do. For everybody that served their country in uniform, we're going to give them this card. And they can take this card, and they go to whatever hospital they want. They can go to Via Christi St. Francis, or they can go to the VA, they can go wherever they want with this card. We're going to take care of it. That's how I feel. If you're going to serve this country, we owe it to you. Don't you think? That's what I think. So, bureaucracies are frustrating. You heard of red tape? Cutting through the red tape to get anything done, okay? Jumping through hoops. Bureaucracy, okay? The fifth and final economic theory as a form of government is capitalism. I'm going to find out if anybody watched the video. We all know who wrote the Communist Manifesto, right? And we all know a little bit about Karl Marx and his philosophy. we know who is credited as the author of Capitalism? Adam Smith. Okay. It's amazing in this country, it's a capitalist nation, how few people know that Adam Smith, who wrote The Wealth of Nations, right? The Wealth of Nations, which basically describes capitalism. Okay. Capitalists believe this: there's an infinite amount of wealth in the world, an infinite. Versus the mercantilist that believes there's a finite. Remember? Mercantilists, there's only a limited amount of wealth in the world, so you got to go out and get it. Where capitalists believe there's an infinite amount of wealth in the world. Where supply and demand control the marketplace, the free market. Where competition is good. Supply and demand run the free market. And competition is good. You guys remember Laissez Faire? You've heard that before, Laissez Faire? Hands off government, or as Adam Smith described, the invisible hand of government. Okay. As we studied, the Great Depression, the stock market crash, and so forth, sometimes the hand of government needs to reach in and regulate some things. When things get out of control, you need some regulation. Okay? But the hand of government cannot become so strong that it strangles the marketplace with regulation and bureaucracy. You understand? Wait, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? So the visible hand of government, or a hands-off type of government, laissez-faire. Okay. Now, Mr. Swords and I debate this quite often. Okay. I am a true free market guy. Okay. I believe in free enterprise. Government doesn't create jobs. People create jobs. People create wealth. Government doesn't create wealth. People create wealth through entrepreneurship. Okay? You have 2 cows. You sell one and buy a bull. Bull and the cow have children. All those calves, right? And then the calves grow up. And then after you've mated with that bull and your cow, you switch somebody else. You want to get a different bull. Mate with the children, right? Pretty soon you have cattle, right? You with me? Some of these cattle you're going to milk. Yeah? Now, if you get enough cattle, you're going to have more than enough milk to make all the cheese and butter you want for your family. You're going to have some left over at the end of the month. So, because you got so many cows, you're going to hire somebody to milk those cows for you. You just created a job for somebody else. And that guy that milks your cows is going to save his money, and he's going to buy some chickens. Okay? After a while, as your cattle ranch begins to grow, you're going to need somebody to drive, that milk and your other milk products to the store, because you're going to sell them at the store. So you created another job, truck driver. Truck driver saves his money, and then he buys another truck and hires a driver to drive that truck. Before long, this truck driver has a shipping company, a trucking company, that employs dozens of drivers. That one person, that one truck driver, has created wealth for many people. And that one cattle farmer, dairy farmer, well, let's say cattle rancher, whatever you want to call it, he's going to have some of those cows butchered. He's going to sell meat. So he hires a butcher to butcher his cattle. Create another job. That guy opens a butcher market where he's got people working for him. This is how capitalism works. Did government do that? Did government make Amazon? Did government create the light bulb? People did that. When presidents and politicians run for office and they say they're going to create jobs. Really? Yeah, go ahead. They're going to create jobs. How are they going to do that? Now, they could set policies in place that promote economic activity. Yes? They can put an environment together that spurs economic growth. Okay? But if a politician says they're going to create jobs, what does that mean? The national government's going to get bigger and we're just going to hire more government employees? What are you saying? How are you going to create jobs? Okay? The American people, why do you think people come here from other countries? For that opportunity. It's called capitalism. But your generation has got this idea now, I guess, that capitalism is awful. That we need socialism. Because people can't do it themselves. We need the government to do it for them. More and more people start to think like that. Okay? Look, we didn't become the richest nation on the planet without capitalism. And capitalism, ladies and gentlemen, has brought more people out of poverty than any other system, economic system, that the world has ever seen. By far. Okay, that's my speech. Don't believe me? Look it up. All right, we're moving on to something different. And we are going to, this is the last thing before we get to your essay portion, okay, of this section. Okay. And these, we're going to look at the 5 basic concepts of democracy. How many? 5 basic concepts of democracy. Some of these are pretty self-explanatory, common sense, but maybe you never really thought about very deeply, okay? So let's do that. Let's think about it deeply. The first basic concept of democracy is the fundamental worth of the individual. The fundamental worth of the individual. We are a nation of laws. These laws should uphold everyone's dignity. Now, you guys know a little American history, so you know that this country has not always had its laws protecting every individual, have they? Okay? We're getting closer to this all the time, of fulfilling that. Okay? So, everyone's dignity should be upheld and recognized as an individual and recognized by the law. Now, let me ask you a philosophical question. Can the welfare of one person be subordinated to the interests of the many?
Define subordinated.
Say that again?
Define subordinated.
Subordinate. Ignored. So can the welfare of one be ignored for the interests of many? Let's talk about biologically male transgender athletes that identify as women that want to compete in women's sports. If we decide not to subordinate the interests of one transgender athlete who wants to compete as a woman for the interest of the many, these are the issues we think about and have to deal with in this country. Other examples. Can anybody think of any where we subordinate the interests of one person for the many? I mean, we could just talk about something like progressive taxation. Yeah, so the rich pay a higher percentage of their earnings in taxes than the poor. So you're subordinating the interest of the rich to the interest of the many that are poor. We do it all the time. Okay? Where you can't do it is when you're talking about somebody's civil rights. Okay? And this is where the Supreme Court will come in eventually on this issue of, biologically male transgender athletes that want to participate as girls. The Supreme Court will make that decision eventually. It's coming soon. Okay, I don't know where they're going to fall on this. You know what I mean? If it is seen as a constitutional civil right of somebody that identifies as a female that is biologically a male, if that is a civil right in the view of the 9 Supreme Court justices, then we will subordinate, or we will, look at the interest of the few over the many, if that makes sense, which would be female athletes, the men. So that's where you got to draw the line, is with civil rights. When you're talking about human beings, their rights under the law in the Constitution, you cannot subordinate those. If it's not a right, you can do it. We do it all the time. Does that make sense? Okay, number 2. Equality of all persons. Second basic concept of democracy. The equality of all persons. You guys know what this is, right? Equality of outcome. Okay, so we're going to have our first test sometime this month. Okay, and some of you guys will get A's. Some of you guys might get C's. Okay, so in the interest of equality of outcome, you study 7 hours for my test and make 100%. You study 2 hours for my test and you make an 80%. Okay. In the interest of equality of outcome, I'm sorry, we're going to take a little bit from you. We're going to give it to Connor. Okay. And you're both going to get 90%. It's only fair.
Thanks, Cameron.
Yeah. Now, Cameron, on the second test, which is harder than the first test, says, I'm not studying for 7 hours. I'll study for 3. And so now she makes a B. And you're like, it doesn't really matter how long I study. I'll study 30 minutes, look it over. And you make a D. You make a B. Now, in the interest of quality of outcome, you're both going to get C's. Sorry. Now, what happens on the next test? Nobody studies. This crap don't work. It doesn't work. There's no reason to work hard to get ahead if you can't gain from it. So that's not what I'm talking about with equality of all persons. I'm talking about trying to provide quality of opportunity for people. And in this country, we do that through education. We give everybody a free education through high school. Okay? Now, your great-grandparents were lucky if they made it through the 8th grade. Okay? Now, I know graduation rates aren't stellar in this country. Okay? But for Bishop Carroll, they're pretty good. All right? So, equality of opportunity. This is something, as a nation, we try and do. It's difficult to do because you can't choose who your parents are. You can't choose what situation you're born into as children. Everybody's going to be different. So as a government, we try and protect people with laws and give them hopefully a quality education so that they can go out and do the things they can, they're capable of. Okay? Now, we do have equality before the law. Okay? We have due process of law, so everybody gets treated the same by the law. That's the way it's supposed to be. Okay? Are we perfect there? No. Okay? And I'll be the first to say, I feel that we have some criminal justice reform that needs to take place in this country. That if you're black, especially if you're black, the justice system, or if you're poor, the justice system is not the same for you as if you're rich. I think that's true in this country right now. I don't know how to fix that. I'm not, have you guys heard about people, states, cities doing away with bail? You guys know what bail is? Like, so if you can't make bail, you stay in jail until you're tried. You know what I mean? But some cities and states are just doing away with bail. So you get arrested for something, you don't go to jail. They release you until you're tried. Okay? Which to me is insane and frightening. Now, is bail unfair to poor people that may not be able to get out? I mean, people do get accused of crimes that they did not commit. You know what I mean? We all have due process. So, I mean, I think that's something we have to look at. I think doing away with bail is dangerous for the community because they're not even going to jail. They're just booking them and releasing them to go out and commit more crimes before they stand trial. What? I mean, San Francisco guys, they're told don't even call the cops for shoplifting. If somebody comes into your business and steals from you, don't call the cops. They got bigger fish to fry. They got other problems. Talk about a breakdown in society. Holy crap. Okay, moving on. The third basic concept of democracy. Majority rules and minority rights. Majority rules and minority rights. Most decisions in our system are made by majority rule. Is the majority always right when they make a decision? But it is the decision that is the most pleasing to the most people at the time. But it's not always right. Okay. But that's how we do things here. It's democratic. Okay. So, rights of the minority. This is huge. Okay. Because if we do not protect the rights of the minority will not always be the minority. Speaking to you white people out there, okay, at one point, white people were a majority of people in this country. We have now become white people a plurality, which means the most. Okay, at some point, Hispanics will become the plurality. okay, which would be the most. And whites will become a minority. So if whites, while in charge, do not protect the rights of minority when they're in power, should whites expect to be treated well by the majority when they become the minority? Huh? Okay. Hey, we got to enforce the law, the Constitution, the 14th Amendment, equal protection under the law for all citizens. Okay. If we don't do that, then we excuse mistreatment of others by the law, and we shouldn't allow that. And if there's injustice in this country, I think we need to try and address it. Okay? I'm not a big defund the police guy. Okay? Reform the police? Sure. Hire more Latino, Hispanic, African American police officers to work in heavily Hispanic and African American communities? Well, that's a great idea. Let's do that. Okay. Community policing has shown to work. If you have the same 4 cops that work this neighborhood every day, and they get out there in the community and meet the people and talk to the people and build a relationship with the people, then the people trust the police. The sheriff of Wichita has done a pretty darn good job at this. Okay, he's done a lot of community involvement stuff with the police, which makes a huge difference when the community trusts the cops. Now, this is tough in a big city, but it's doable. You just got to get the cops to get out of their cars and talk to the people. Talk to the kids. You know what I mean? All about reforming systems to make them better. It's a tough freaking job. Because every time you get called as a cop, you don't know what that's going to be going on. You know what I mean? That's scary. I don't want that job. I do not want to be a cop. Much rather be a teacher. You guys want that job? It's not easy. All right. So, majority rules, minority rights. The 4th basic concept of democracy is the necessity of compromise. Necessity of compromise. Now, the majority is going to win, right? So right now, the Democrats can kind of do what they want in the House and the Senate. So the minority here is going to have to give basically to the majority. All right, you got the majority, okay? But the majority needs to recognize that there are multiple solutions to a problem. And so maybe listening to the other side would be good, okay? And hopefully we can achieve some compromise. So basically, the Democrats have, the White House and Congress. So you probably won't see a lot of compromise right now. Okay, we'll see. Generally, it's when you have divided government that you see more compromise. Okay. Now, are there any uncompromising issues? Like, I will not compromise on this. Like what? Okay, but we're not passing a law on that.
Oh.
Okay, abortion, slavery. Now let me talk about abortion for a second, okay? You got Joe Biden, Kamala Harris in there, right? Okay, and they want to increase the taxes on the wealthy, okay? And you're a Republican in Congress, you say. And you want to restrict abortion more, right? You're like, we need to stop this genocide, okay? And so you say to Joe Biden, you say, look, Joe, I'll support your tax increase on those making over $400,000. Okay? If you allow for a bill to go through Congress, or encourage a bill to go through Congress, that does away with all partial birth abortions in the United States. You want to make a deal? It's a baby step in the right direction. No pun intended. I know, but you know what I mean? It's a compromise to move to what you want. Okay, so in politics, you have to do that sometimes, right? You have to compromise. If you can get in the direction you want, or take a baby step in the direction you want, then you do it. You get what you can. You compromise. You know what I mean? Slavery? No. There's no compromise there. We're not doing it. Well, neither side wants to do it. So, okay. The fifth basic concept of democracy is individual freedom. Individual freedom. Now, absolute freedom to do whatever you wanted would be what? Anarchy. Okay? So we got to put some limits on our behavior. All right? So, this is how Supreme Court Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes said. He said, the right of me to swing my fist. I can swing my fist. The right of me to swing my fist ends where your nose begins. I can swing my fist all I want. I just can't harm you. Yes? Okay? Or as JFK said. JFK said this. He said, the rights of every man are diminished when the rights of one man are threatened. So this is our social contract. I mean, individual freedom, we give up some of our liberty to do harm to others. Okay? We give up the right to drive 75 miles an hour through a residential area so that those people know that their children can play in their front yard safely. Okay? We do have individual freedom. There are limits to that. And those are the 5 basic concepts of democracy, which you will list on the tabs. Okay, so, is it that time? It's about that time. What is today? Okay, so guys, over Wednesday, I'm gonna have a reading assignment. Okay, where you're gonna read the English Bill of Rights, page 20. Go to page 20 real quick. I know there's 20 A, B, C, D, and E. Okay, there's a chart on page 20. Okay, you're going to read excerpts of the Magna Carta, the Petition of Right, and the English Bill of Rights. This will be due Thursday when you come back. Okay, I'm going to do a few notes on the English tradition's impact on our system. Looking at the English tradition. So I'll explain that. I'll do a few notes tomorrow. But from here on out, this is focusing on our essay for this class. Okay, for the first step. Good? So look for that assignment.